point after covering the properties of convolution, and we saw that how the properties of convolution helps us in simplifying our system. And we also talked about stability, that before patching up any circuit we can just check the stability whether it is going to be stable or not. Next comes the difference equation. Now this also you have already seen, but let's quickly go through it. If you have a LTI system, input x of n, output y of n, one thing we studied, that is h of n, the impulse response. Given impulse response, we can find out output for any given input. We have already seen using convolution. Now this h of n is impulse response, and this is taken as property of this system. So if we have this discrete time system, it is completely defined by h of n. If you know the impulse response h of n, it completely defines your system. The other way of defining your system is through what we call as the difference equation. What is difference equation? Difference equation gives you the relationship between input and output. It is of this type, that output y of n is equal to what? It may be some multiple of, let's say, input, or any combination of previous inputs, or any combination of, let's say, previous outputs. So this type of equation is known as a difference equation, which gives you the relationship between input and output, that this output is equal to what. So this we call as the difference equation. In the difference equation, it comprises of your present input, and depending on the system, it may have previous inputs or previous outputs. If your present output is a combination of present input, some scaled factor, your previous input, and your previous output, then you will have an equation like this. Now these coefficients are very important, and they actually define a particular system. In general, we may have a situation like this. Just I will use the system which is given there. If we take all the y's on the left hand side and all the x's on the right hand side, we may have a situation like this. Let's have a naught yn, a1 yn minus 1, a2 yn minus 2, so in general it may be an equation of this type, where all the coefficients of y's we take as variable a, all the coefficient of x we take as variable b. In general, we can write it as, if you just write it as summation, it will end up giving you summation k is equal to, let's say, 0 to whatever, m minus 1, or you can call this n on this side. So this equation is known as the difference equation. Now this difference equation also completely describes your system. If you are given a difference equation, then you can find out output for the given inputs if you have all the things available to you.
We are starting from 0 because of coil, and k is equal to 0 because it is coil.
Yes, because we are considering a causal system. If you have anti-causal system, then k may be going from negative side also. So you may have y of n plus 1 term, or you may have x of n plus 1 terms also. But all real systems are causal.
But if we have some stored data, for example, stored signal, so we can have the future in that context.
That is sort of prediction. that is prediction. In real world, real-time data cannot be future data. So you can simulate, or you can have an idea and store it somewhere, but if it is future data, your system will be, let's say, either anti-causal or non-causal. It will not be a real-time system. So if we are talking about real-time system which is implemented using real-time components, then it will always be causal. You cannot have any anti-causal or two-sided type of a system. So whenever we are making different types of filters or different types of systems for real-world application, for making a hardware out of it, it will all be causal systems. It will not be having any anti-causal or this type of term. That is why we are having case starting from 0, and that's why we have this. So right now this difference equation is representing a causal system. So difference equation very important because it also describes completely your system. So what do we mean by describing a system? Now by describing a system we mean that we should be able to find out output for any given input. We should be able to find out different properties of the system. Now what all properties we are interested in? If we are given a system, what all the properties are that we are normally interested in finding out, we are going to talk about it in next few lectures. But the first thing that we saw earlier was, if we are given h of n, it actually completely describes your system. H of n is just response to a unit impulse, that is h of n. The other thing which completely describes your system is the difference equation. What is the difference equation? It is the relationship between input and output for the given system. Now it may be written in this shape where all the y terms are on this side, all the x terms are on this side, or it may be written in this shape where output is equal to what? So we have all x and y present and previous terms here, and just y of n on this side. So two different ways of writing the difference equation. Both of them are actually given right here, and this, if you write in terms of y of n, we also call it as the recurrence formula for the system. Recurrence formula for the system or difference equation for the system are one and the same thing. It is just that in one we have taken y of n on one side and written it in this particular shape. So now here there are a few things that we need to know. All these terms, these x of n minus 1, x of n minus 2, we have a name for these terms. All these terms are, we call that as feed forward. We call them as the feed forward terms. Why we call them as feed forward term? If you see this diagram, inputs are coming from this side and going towards right. So it is feed forward. That's why we have given the name feed forward terms to all the x terms, whether present or past. Now if x of n is any given signal, it may be any given signal, then x of n minus 1 is basically shifted version of that same thing. Remember this. So otherwise we say that x of n is your present input and x of n minus 1 is one previous one. That's what we tend to call that. So these terms, these all terms that we have, we call them as the feed forward terms. And all these terms that we have here, excluding your y of n because that's kind of special thing, we call them as the feedback. Technical name for these terms are the feedback terms. So if you see this equation, this has two feed forward terms and one feedback term. From your basic common sense, we already know that if your output depends on present input and this is the previous input and this is the previous output which is fed back. So we store the previous output and with some scaling factor add it to previous input and present input to compute your present output. So this term is your feedback term. So all the y of n minus anything, n minus 1, n minus 2, all these terms are the feedback terms, right? So these are basic things, and we will just keep coming across these terminologies again and again. I will keep explaining all the terminologies once we come across this. Now let's consider two situations. First situation, where we have no feedback, just feed forward terms. If you have just feed forward terms, then you will have equation like this. The left portion, it will have just first term. There are no feedback terms, only feed forward terms. So you will end up getting y of n is equal to this thing, summation k equal to 0 to m minus 1 bk x of n minus k. This type of a situation. Now this type of a situation, if you come across where we just have feed forward terms and no feedback term in the system, then we call that system as the MA system. What does MA stand for? We call this as the moving average system. So this is moving average system. So if we have just feed forward terms, we will end up getting moving average system. And if we have no feed forward term, just the present input, and no previous inputs is involved, we have just previous outputs which are fed back. That means we don't have all these terms, only the present x of n is there, and rest the previous outputs, combination of previous outputs. Then we will have equation like this, x of n is this thing. That type of system we call as the autoregressive system. If you have a system like this where x of n is equal to summation k equal to 0 to n minus 1 ak y of n minus k, this type of a situation, now this type of situation would be your autoregressive type of a system. In general we call this as MA and this thing as AR. And if you have a combination, feed forward and feedback term combination, then that type of a system, example is here, it would be a combination of autoregressive and moving average terms, and we call this as AR-MA type of a system. So three different situations. And based on these three situations, you will see that properties of your system are going to change. Now next thing is the order of the system. Now what is the order of the system? Now in this course we will limit ourselves to discrete time systems only. If it was a continuous time system, then instead of difference equation you will have what equation? Differential equation. For discrete time you have difference equation. For continuous time you have differential equation. In your signal end system or on your DSP you would have studied your differential equations, and differential equations have differentials instead of these delays. Instead of, let's say, x of n minus 1, you will have differentiation of x. Instead of y of n minus 1, it will be differentiation of this. So you will have a situation like this, and I will give you an example that you have y of t is equal to, let's say, some coefficient a naught x of t plus, let's call it b naught, b1 dxt by dt plus, let's say, a1 dyt by dt, something like that. This is a differential equation. Now in your mathematics you have studied differential equation, and once we study differential equation, then we say that the order of this differential equation is the highest order of differential. In this it has zero order differential or no differential. This is the first order differential. Now if we had higher order, it will be d square xt by dt square, something like that. So whatever is the highest order of differential, we call the differential equation being of that order. So in this particular case, this will be first order differential equation. Now in case we had another term, let's say plus b2 d square xt by dt square, this will be a second order differential equation then. Now similarly, if we have difference equation, for discrete time we have difference equation, and these are of this type. The order of difference equation is determined by the maximum delay factor that we have in either x or y. In this we have n minus 1, n minus 1, both in x and y. So we'll call this as first order. If we had any n minus 2, whether it was with x or y, it will be second order. So that is the order of your difference equation. And if we had continuous time, it will be differential, and order will be determined by the highest order of differential. Now it does not matter whether you have the difference in y, which is maximum, or difference in x, which is maximum. So whatever is the maximum lag factor, that will be your order of difference equation. So here is an example of first order difference equation. Why it is first order? Because we have y of n minus 1 term. Now this type of a system is basically autoregressive system, because we have just x of n and y of n and y of n minus 1. So we have feedback term, feed forward term is not there, we have just feedback term. So if you want to make a block diagram for this, it will be something like this. Your y of n, if you delay it by one sample, it will become y of n minus 1. So the output here is basically the previous output, because the present one is just waiting here for the clock cycle. So this is the previous output, which is scaled or multiplied by some factor and added to x of n to give you your present output. So this is sort of a system which is having a feedback, and it's a first order system. And this is an example of a block diagram. Yes?
So x of n to इसमें है सर, जो feed forward में हमने ऐड किया हुआ है सर, x of n. इससे नीचे x of n feed forward का ही है सर part.
So I should not. Okay. So the present, just leave them. So this is your feed forward feedback first order example. Now let's come to properties. Now first property is regarding the stability. Now we already talked about this stability problem earlier. We said that a system that is given to us will be stable if its impulse response is absolutely summable. That is what we saw last time. The condition was summation h of n for n equal to whatever, minus infinity to infinity. This should be less than infinity. It should be absolutely summable. So if we sum up all the terms together, we should get a value which is finite. So it should be absolutely summable. So that is how we can find out stability of a system if we are given impulse response. Now if we are given difference equation, then how we can find out whether we have a stable system or not. And this is basically the output magnitude will depend on magnitude of your this right hand terms. And if you take again the magnitude portion inside, the coefficient magnitude and magnitude of these x terms, it will be here, and we change this basically symbol to less than equal to, because mod is applied to both these terms, and this has to be less than infinity for y of n to be bounded. Now in case your x of n is bounded, your this y of n would be bounded, provided that the coefficients that are given to you, they are also within a finite limit. All these coefficients, if these are a finite number, then you will have a stable system. Now a general remark, remember one thing: whenever you are given a feed forward system, whenever we have a moving average system, this type of a system, this system will always be stable. This will be always stable because if you consider this system, it has just feed-forward terms. Now, if we have an equation given to us, something like this, having feed-forward terms, let's take another term also. Now, A0, A1, A2, let's say these are given to us. This is an example of a simple feed-forward system where we have coefficients given to us. So this is a moving average system. I said that all the moving average systems will always be stable. Why they are going to be always stable? And the other thing is that if we are given difference equation of moving average system, we can find out h of n very comfortably. How? If the input is delta n, output is h of n, right? Now this is an LTI system. If we take x of n is equal to delta n, what would be x of n minus 1? Like that, right? Now if you do this replacement, if you take input as x of n as delta n and substitute in this equation, if input is taken as delta n, what would output become? It will become h of n. So h of n would be equal to a naught delta n, I am just using this equation, plus a1 delta n minus 1 plus a2 delta n minus 2. So if we are given a moving average system, we can just replace x of n with delta n and find out the impulse response. And this is going to be your impulse response. Let's put some values here. Let's say that values were given to us. Values like, let's say 0.5 x of n minus 0.1 x of n minus 1 plus, let's say 0.2 x of n minus 2. This was it. Then we can just replace this with this. It becomes 0.5 delta n minus 0.1 plus 0.2. This will be your impulse response. Or you can write h of n as 0.5 minus 0.1 and 0.2. Or you can draw a diagram for this thing, right? So for moving average, we can easily find out impulse response, and you will see that for moving average, impulse response is always going to be finite. All the moving average systems will have finite impulse response. So if we have a moving average system given to us, how do we know it is moving average system? Because we have just feed forward terms. If you have just feed forward terms, no feedback term, this is a moving average system. If it is a moving average system having feed forward terms, we can find out impulse response just by replacing x of n with delta n, and we end up getting h of n like this. And you will see that your impulse response will have finite number of terms, because all the feed forward terms contribute a single impulse. And if in your difference equation we have finite number of terms, which is logical, if your equation is given to you, it will have a countable or finite number of terms. We can easily find out impulse response, and you will see that impulse response will have finite number of terms, and if impulse response has finite number of terms, it is always stable, because we can sum them up. So in general, your moving average systems are always going to be stable. The second thing, if we are given an autoregressive type of a system, an autoregressive system has just feedback terms, then we cannot do this. Why we cannot do this? Because if you replace x of n with delta n, this will be delta something, this will become h of n, but if you have feedback terms, these feedback terms becomes h of n minus 1, h of n minus 2, that type of thing, and it will not give you a single h of n. So we cannot really compute h of n. There is an indirect way, we will see that how we actually do that. So we can still find out h of n, but not directly. It will not be as simple as just plug in this replacement, take x of n as delta n, and output becomes, or y of n becomes h of n. So we cannot do that simple thing and find out the output. So autoregressive, you will see, if we have autoregressive or if we have combination of autoregressive or moving average, we cannot do this replacement and easily get impulse response. So even if we have a single feedback term, even if we have a single feedback term in your difference equation, and we have something like this, y of n is equal to 0.1 x of n minus 0.2 x of n minus 1 minus 0.1 y of n minus 1. Even if a single feedback term is there, it will make your impulse response h of n IIR. Impulse response will become infinite, and we will see that how we will compute that impulse response. We are going to see later. So in general, your moving average systems are always stable, and autoregressive or autoregressive moving average combination may be stable, may be unstable. And how do we find out stability of the system? We are going to see in next few lectures. Now MATLAB, I told you. MATLAB, I hope everybody has installed MATLAB. Everybody, is there anybody who is not comfortable with MATLAB? So at least the basic operations in MATLAB you should know. Learning MATLAB is very easy. You should treat MATLAB as a package. Don't treat it as a language, treat it as a package. Now a package is like using Word or using PowerPoint. So you should just play around with the thing and use it. It's like using a calculator. So if you have that concept of MATLAB, you will find it very, very simple. Now to learn MATLAB, if you are not very comfortable, all that you need to remember is one command, which is this: type help, and it will give you help about everything. Now we have command for convolution, which is CONV. This CONV command, all small, CONV command, or all capital, actually both of these things work in MATLAB. So if we have CONV command in MATLAB, which actually does convolution for you. If you don't know how to use this command, at the prompt just type help with one gap CONV, and it is going to tell you complete details about this command, that how to use that command, and a sample example also. And you can just change the value and see that how these things work. So learning MATLAB, very, very simple. Using the help, very, very simple. But problem with help is you need to know the command itself. Second command that can help you in case you don't know the commands. You don't know what is convolution command and what is the command for doing different types of things. Then there is another command which is even more stronger than this, which is look for. Remember this. So in case you want to do convolution, you know that MATLAB has some command about convolution, or if you want to do some filtration, you know MATLAB has a lot of commands about filtration. But what is the command, how to use that, you don't know. So all you need to know is look for. Just type look for, and with one gap type the whole convolution. As a result, it is going to give you a whole list of different commands. What look for does is, look for searches in the whole package of MATLAB all the commands whose description has the word convolution in it, and gives you the list of all the commands in priority. If convolution CONV command has the word convolution appearing 5 times, this will be the first. Then another command who has word convolution appearing 4 times, that will be next command. So like that, in order of priority, all the commands will be listed, and then you can just type one by one, help this to see how these commands are actually used. So that is for those of you who are not very comfortable with MATLAB or are new to MATLAB or have forgotten MATLAB. There are a lot of tutorials which are there online. You can just look at those tutorials. In MATLAB itself, there is a lot of help available. You can just type help. It will give you all the details about MATLAB and environment itself. So be comfortable with MATLAB. I told you that we don't consider a person an engineer if he does not know MATLAB and C language. These two things are taken as something which an engineer is supposed to know. If somebody says I am an engineer, it is understood that these two things, he will be knowing these things. So if somebody says I am an engineer, we can just say, okay, do that in MATLAB and show me the results. And we expect that person know MATLAB. So if you don't know MATLAB, please become comfortable with that and start using it. For this course, the assignments will be given to you in MATLAB. You will have to do basic things, and we'll start from very, very simple examples or simple assignments, and then it will keep becoming more complex. So one command which is useful for us in MATLAB is conv or convolution command. So in this command, how do we use this command? It is just at command prompt we type conv and we give two values to it, x and h, and it will as a result give you the convolution of these two. Now before giving x and h, obviously you have to first of all give the values to x and h. So it is like if x of n is given to us as 0.5 minus 1.52 and 0.2, and h of n is given to us as, let's say, 2, 0.51, something like this, and we are asked to compute y of n. We know that y of n is x of n convolved with h of n, and that will give you the answer. In MATLAB, if you have to do this, what we will do is we'll take at the command prompt, we will type a variable x is equal to, and at a square bracket we can just type 0.5 with one gap minus 1.5 with one gap, 2 and 0.2 here. Now if you press enter, it is just going to echo back 0.5, 1.5, 2 and 0.2. But if you don't want the echo back to be there, type a semicolon. If you type a semicolon then press enter, this will not be echoed back. So then you can just take h as 2.51, enter, and this will store x and h in the memory. If you want to check, you can just at the command type x and press enter. Because it is without semicolon, you will see that it will echo back 0.5 minus 1.5, 2 and 0.2. So you know that it has already these things stored. So now if you type conv x and h, it will give you the result of the convolution. Or you can just do this, y is equal to conv x comma h. So whatever convolution is there, that will get stored in y. The variable y now will have all this. Now if you put a semicolon, it will not echo back value of y. If you don't put semicolon, it will give you value of y, whatever values is there, it will echo it back. So if you put a semicolon, it will not echo back, then you will yourself have to type y and press enter just to see what is y. So very, very basic things, but that is for those of you who are not very comfortable in MATLAB. Start playing around, feel comfortable. So it's not a very difficult type of package. Now the second command which is useful in MATLAB is the filter command. Now filter command is very interesting and useful command. Again, you can just always type help filter and it will give you all the details about how to use that command with a particular example. Otherwise, if you want to use filter command, again in filter command we give three values as input to filter command: b, a and x. Now b is a vector having the coefficients b. What are coefficients be? If we are given difference equation like this, y of n if you are given equation like this, a naught by convention we always take as 1. The coefficient with y we always take as 1. If this is not 1, we can divide the whole equation left and right by that and make it 1. So a naught is generally taken as 1. This is your, so a vector is basically a naught, a1, all this. This is your a vector. In our case, it will be 1 and minus 0.1. This will be our a. The b vector are all the coefficients which are for feed forward terms, and in this particular case, the coefficients that we have would be, what would be the coefficients? 0.1 and minus 0.2. Is that right? That's not right. Because x of n, then we have x of n minus 2. X of n minus 1 is missing, and that coefficient is actually 0, and then 0.2. These are coefficients this. So a and b for difference equation. So if difference equation is given to us, then difference equation also completely describes your system. If you know h of n, we can find out output using this convolution for any given input, or if difference equation is given to us, we can find out output for any given input using filter command in MATLAB. So let's say that we are given the same inputs. We are given input as this and difference equation like this. Now then our x would be this 0.5 minus 1, 2 and 0.2. So we have a, we have b, and we have x. And we can use the filter command now. First give these entries, and then your output would be just using filter command. Filter, first b, then a, then x. It will give you the output. Right? So we can use filter command to find out output for any given input if we are given difference equation. If we are given difference equation, that means we are given a and b vectors. A and b vectors are coefficients with feedback terms and coefficient with feed forward terms, or in other words, coefficients of y terms and coefficient of x terms. So these will be vector a and b, and x is actually your input. So if we are given difference equation, we are given these coefficients, and if we are given these coefficients, then we can find out output for any given input. Now x can keep changing, and we can keep finding out that the same filter, what output it will give. Anybody having any confusion with this? Very, very simple basic commands. And this makes life a lot easier for us. Now using filter command, we can find out your impulse response also. How can we find impulse response? Using filter command. If you take x of n or x as 1, if you take x as 1, if x of n is equal to delta n. Now delta n, if you want to write it another way, it will be like 1. That's it. So if input is delta n, the output will be response to delta n or impulse response. And if you have FIR system, then you will see that this filter command will give you comfortably your output, which will be your H. But if it is a IIR, don't use that, it will make your computer hang. Why? It will just start echoing the values. So it will be valid if we have this thing, if we have this equation. If y of n was this, we can find out output, right? So simple jugglery. So very basic things, but we start from basic and keep building up. So what we actually learned here is how to use MATLAB to find out output for any given input in case impulse response is given or difference equation is given. So if you are given a discrete time system and we want to find out output, so either h of n should be given to us or the difference equation should be given to us. If any one of these things are given, then we can find out output for any given input using MATLAB, right? So now comes, this is the same thing. We were describing all this. Now initial and final, we are not even going to go there. So in summary, this is what we learned in this set of slides. We talked about convolution. Y of n is sum of x of k h of n minus k. This is the convolution sum. This is the summation of convolution. That's the first theory we talked about. So what this helps us in finding out, output for any given input if impulse response is known. So we saw one or two methods by which we can compute the convolution, and we saw MATLAB command also to compute convolution if x of n and h of n is given to us. We can use CONV, convolution command. We talked about a causal system, we talked about stability of a system, we talked about FIR and IIR. It actually depends on the length of your impulse response. If it is finite length impulse response, it will be FIR. If it is infinite, it will be IIR. We said that all moving average systems are FIR and all autoregressives are IIR. And if we have any feedback term in difference equation, it will make your system IIR. And we also saw that how properties of convolution actually helps us in simplifying complex systems. We can just join the series system or parallel systems together and come up with equivalent system. So this was this set of slides. Now this is what we were going to cover in time domain analysis, that type of thing. Now let's go into the complex exponential inputs. Till now we were talking about very simple types of input, unit impulse or simple type of input. Now if we have a system and we give a complex input to it, then what happens? Let's see. Let me just start the clean board. So coming back to our basic system, if we have an LTI system, I told you all the theories will be for linear time invariant system. Now get comfortable with these terms. What is an LTI system? What is a moving average system? What is an autoregressive system? What are feedback? What is feed forward? So these are technical buzzwords. Now convolution and all these types of things. So these types of things should come naturally to you. So these initial few slides, we have so many terms. Just go over it again and again, just feel comfortable with these terms, because later on these terms you will use all the time. So if we have an LTI system, a discrete time LTI system, input x of n, this thing. Now we saw that if we give a unit impulse as an input, output is h of n, we call that as impulse response. Now what if we give a complex input to it? Now complex input now is of the type e raised to power of j omega n. This is a complex exponential, e raised to power of j omega n. Now in continuous time in your signaling system, I don't know how deep you went into a signaling system, The equivalent type of thing that you come across is your e raised to power of j omega t in your continuous time. In discrete time, we have e raised to power of j omega n. Now, e raised to power of j omega t, a very interesting signal. This is a complex exponential. And the engineers, especially electrical engineers, and to some extent computers, but mainly the electrical engineers, they will be very comfortable with this. For those of you who don't have electrical engineering background, let me just quickly cover this. This signal, we call that as, we have multiple names for this. We call that as complex frequency. We call that as complex frequency, e raised to power of j omega t. Here, this omega is the angular frequency. Omega is the angular frequency, and it is equal to 2 pi f. And the units for this angular frequency are radians per second. Now, why do we call this as complex frequency? We have another name for this. We call that as complex exponential also. We call that as complex frequency because there was a scientist by the name of Euler. It is pronounced Euler, not Euler. So it is Euler. There was a scientist by the name of Euler. He gave us a very interesting formula. He said e raised to power of j anything, e raised to power of j multiplied by anything is actually equal to what? So he said that this complex exponential e raised to power of j multiplied by anything, that theta, a, b, c, whatever you want to call it, this is actually, this comprises of two parts. This is a complex number. It has a real part and it has a imaginary part. The real part is cosine theta. The imaginary part is sine theta. Now see this, if we have e raised to power of j omega t, instead of theta we have this thing. This will become cosine omega t plus j times sine omega t, right? What is cosine omega t? This is a sinusoid. This is a simple sinusoid, and this has thing like this. This is a simple sinusoid, cosine omega t. And this sinusoid, if you plot this sinusoid, it has a particular frequency, and frequency is related to this by this thing. So cosine omega t, we call that as a single frequency, right? And we can put values here. We can say if we have is cosine 200 pi t, we say this is 100 hertz frequency because we can rewrite it as cosine 2 pi into 100 times t. This is your omega, and 100 is your 100 hertz. So this is a single frequency. If we have a cosine, that's a single frequency, right? And this is a real frequency. There is no imaginary part. We can plot cosine omega t against t. And if we know value of omega, you will see the crossings will be occurring at particular time instances, and the time period t is actually what? 1 over f, or f is equal to 1 over t. So that time period in seconds, whatever you have, will tell you what is the frequency of this sinusoid. So we went to very, very basics. If you are given cosine omega t, we say that it's a single frequency. It's a real frequency. And this real frequency has got a time period which is related to frequency by 1 over t, and it has a so now if we look at this, this is a single frequency, a real frequency. Now this is also the same frequency. Sin omega t and cosine omega t, both of them are sinusoids. One is about 90-degree phase difference to the other. Just take about 1 minute break and just have to take this.